Everyone, I'm Sister Catherine.
My name is Jay Johnson.
And we're the Two Talents.
And all you're getting, get wisdom, knowledge, and of course, understanding.
When I look at the spiritual, mental, and physical aspects of life, spiritually I'm led by the Word of God. Mentally I'm driven by the knowledge His Word provides. And physically I'm bound to produce what I understand.
When I look at the spiritual, mental, and physical aspects of life, physically, God is my finisher. Mentally, I learn what I learned through the course of my life, and physically, I have to apply that knowledge to living it.
Today's subject deals with the epidemic proportion of reproductive tract infections within the black community, which are sexually transmitted diseases. These diseases, undetected, turned into cancer. And we, as a black community, have the highest rate of prostate cancer and the highest rate of uterine cancer in the world.
Yes, my sister, it is definitely a fact that the African American man has the highest rate of prostate cancer. And as you mentioned earlier, the African American woman has the highest rate of uterine cancer, which of course leads to the highest rate of hysterectomy.
That's correct.
And I understand that you're doing a book, while we're talking about this, consequently, you're doing a book that deals with sexually transmitted diseases, what are the causes of it, how it affects us, and what we can do about it. Many times we go to the doctor and we don't know that we have a problem with one thing while they are actually treating us for something else. And while reading your book, I found that you had some very important points about people who have a disease that's caused by, for instance, syphilis or gonorrhea, and then in its third or fourth stage it ends up being cancer. And during that time, people can go to the doctor and they can be treated for one thing but miss the whole cause, and so the disease continues, and obviously people die from it.
That's correct. And what happens is today we're finding out that when you go to a clinic and you have basic tests, you could be in the third stage of a disease, but basically they only do tests in the first stage. So therefore, when the test comes back and they tell you that, oh, well, you know, it was a negative test, that doesn't mean that you had a true reading. It's called a false negative test. Later on in the program, we're going to bring on a nurse who has experience in the STD'S clinic, and she's going to elaborate on this and tell us a lot of things that we need to understand as a people and as a race. Because remember, we talked about prostate cancer and we talked about uterine cancer, and as a nation, that is our reproductive organs. So if we have the highest rate of prostate cancer, the highest rate of uterine cancer in the world, then what does that mean for us as a nation?
Well, that's right, Sister Catherine. We're going to have Wivetta Massey, and she has 19 years experience dealing with the public health department and dealing with sexually transmitted diseases. So she's going to be joining us in just a little bit. She's going to tell us how we can combat against this, what we need to do about it, and how to avoid it if, in fact, we don't have it already.
All right. So in saying that, we'll be right back after these messages.
For watching, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Two Talents. I'm Jay Johnson.
And I'm Sister Catherine. And joining us this evening is Sister Yvette Massey. She is a registered nurse of 19 years with experience in communicable diseases. She has worked with the City of Chicago Department of Public Health under Dr. K, Director of Sexually Transmitted Disease. Good evening, Yvette.
Good evening.
Well, Yvette, let me ask you, in spending 19 years in this with this problem that is consistent, and you found that it mostly affects African Americans, am I correct?
That's correct.
What is happening to the African American people with these diseases that we're talking about today?
Well, the diseases are affecting our body because it's growing in numbers, because of the children are becoming more promiscuous. And as they go to doctors for different symptoms, they're not focusing on the symptoms that actually the communicable diseases are entering our body.
What do you mean by that?
Well, a lot of diseases such as chlamydia are usually not non-symptomatic. You don't know that you have it. When someone tries to go into the clinic, they usually go in because they have a discharge. But the discharge is related to something else. So usually the clinic would test them for syphilis, and it would come back negative as syphilis. And they go back out and they continue to have, be promiscuous, and they're passing this chlamydia on from one person to the other.
Are you honestly saying to me that people go to the doctor with symptoms of, say, for instance, they're having a discharge,
right,
and they're being treated for something else, and they're being given medication for something else, and then they leave out of the facility still having the problem.
That's correct. Well, you know, a lot of the doctors won't even test for chlamydia.
Well, what do we do about this? I mean, how is this possible that it's happening this way? Aren't these doctors that have been to medical school and they're trained to give us medication that's going to help us and heal us of the sicknesses that we have? I mean, who do we trust if we can't trust a doctor? You go into the doctor and they tell us something else is wrong. Should we ask a different question when we go in? I mean, what do we need to know?
Well, you know, a lot of things are cost factors. You have a lot of managed care now. And managed care actually dictates what a doctor can treat you for and cannot treat you for. So a person may have insurance and, well, I want the workup. You know, the workup may not include you getting your body thoroughly checked for hidden diseases. And it's unfortunate that chlamydia happens to be a hidden disease.
Yvetta, I have did some research and studying and finding out, and as we had talked earlier, we were going to look at a spiritual side of this. I did some tracing on chlamydia, and chlamydia is, we heard about it in the 70s, but it's not a new disease. Chlamydia actually started is back in the biblical days. It causes trachoma, and trachoma is known as the Egyptian disease, which is blinding of the eye, which in certain parts of the world that is the leading cause of blindness. But what's happening here, what I wanted us as a community to understand is with this chlamydia and it passing on to your children and it being undetected, that when we go to a clinic, can you explain that sometimes diseases are in a certain stage, so therefore, you know, what happens when you go
certainly, certainly. A lot of times when you come into the clinic, like take syphilis, for example. Syphilis has 3 stages. Okay, stage 1, the male has a horrible burning sensation and possibly some green or yellow discharge. That will take him to the clinic immediately because that pain is unbearable. But women are asymptomatic with syphilis.
Symptoms don't show.
Symptoms does not show the same. So usually when we approach the male, we do a urethral swabbing.
And what is that?
Urethral swabbing is when they take a sterile Q-tip type and we insert it into the man's penis.
You stick it.
Well, we're gentle when we do it, but that is our way of dealing with as far as the male's reproductive system.
And what does that test for?
That tests for syphilis.
But if it is in the 3rd stage,
in the 3rd stage, it will not show up.
Then the test that is done in the clinic will not show that you have it because you're in the 3rd stage.
True. Okay. But usually when the male comes into the clinic, they'll show a positive right away. And the clinic tries to ask, you know, you need to notify your partner. But say, for example, the female. The female may have had it for some time and probably have given it to the male. Because remember, the male comes into the clinic sooner. So you may have a female walking around with it going into her 2nd and 3rd stages. She comes in, she's negative.
So in other words, if a female goes in and she is in fact in the 2nd and 3rd stage, and they're going to treat her for something different than
they're not going to treat
chlamydia.
Exactly.
They're going to treat her for syphilis.
No, syphilis will not show up.
It won't show up, so
No,
they won't know.
No.
So what do we do? In fact, if we go to a doctor, you find out that they are treating you for something else because the problem does not show up. What do you do? I mean, how can we know how to combat against this?
The way you combat is through a blood test. Blood tests are more sensitive, and DNA test is even more specific. But DNA testing it's more on an experimental basis, but it's most accurate. But if you don't go in asking for it,
so we should ask for it.
Definitely ask for it. You know, they say, well, no, this is good enough. We're going to see what we find here. But in the meantime, while they're waiting for what they're finding in the vaginal and in the peritoneal area, this is still circulating through your system and hiding in different portions of your body. And when it hides, it causes different symptoms, such as arthritis. Did you know that syphilis causes arthritis?
No, I didn't know that.
Yes. People think that arthritis is just a degenerative disease that's passed on from one generation to the other. In actuality,
are you telling me that if I have arthritis and I go in and they're treating me for arthritis, I could possibly have syphilis?
It's possible. 3rd stage.
And since you don't know it, it goes on continuously untreated. Is that what you're saying?
What the doctors have a tendency to do is treat your symptom. You came in with a specific symptom. My joints ache. That's exactly what they're going to focus on. Your joints.
So then what happens is they start putting you on steroids or inflammatory medicines.
To mask the symptoms.
Exactly.
To make you feel comfortable. Because that's what we go to the doctor for. That's what we go to the doctor for, to feel better.
Also, let me just say this too. I was reading that hepatitis is coming from the 2nd stage of syphilis.
Now, hepatitis is inflammation of the liver. Yes, syphilis can attack the liver.
Okay.
But you have to remember also, syphilis also creates symptoms of lupus and multiple sclerosis.
I see.
Because those are also autoimmune diseases.
Exactly.
These diseases, communicable diseases, attack our immune system. Our immune system cannot fight every organism in the body. So what it does, it wears down your immune system. So if your immune system is worn down and you have all these different organisms coming in,
for some other kind of
your
disease.
body becomes, exactly.
I see what you mean.
Exactly.
Now, let me ask a question here. Some people tend to think that all they need to do is change their diet, and if they have ovarian cancer or prostate cancer, change the diet, and that'll make it go away. Is that possible?
I'm sorry, that's not possible. It's one good thing about diet is it does try to boost your body to help the immune system fight a little harder.
Yes.
But remember, what you're fighting is still there. You have to get rid of the enemy. And if you don't know the enemy's there, by not asking the correct questions, as you mentioned earlier, Jay, you have to know what to ask for and become more educated and more control of your body and what to seek. You know, sometimes you have to do your own homework.
So, in other words, we're being affected by this, and in large proportionate numbers, African Americans, and we don't even know we have it. So, what you're suggesting is we be more conscious of what's actually going on. The symptoms of other diseases, of other problems, may very well be the cause. May be caused by syphilis or gonorrhea or one of these other communicable diseases. Am I correct?
That's correct.
So, what do we do about that? Where can we go? What are some of the places we can go? And what do we need to do? And when we go to the doctor, what do we need to say?
Okay. One of the things I want the public to be aware of, there are places that will treat you for free. So if you have a problem with payment, they have, City of Chicago have Board of Health clinics. And I'm going to give you the number. One of the numbers you can call is 312-747-8900. And that number is for the Inglewood Department of Public Health.
That's a free service.
All the services that the City of Chicago offer are free.
And so when we go into these places, we need to ask for a specific test depending on our symptoms, or do we need to say, listen, we want to take a blood test so you can check us for everything?
You can get checked for everything at the Board of Health with no charge to you.
I see.
Well, let me ask you a question. Again, we want to get back to the second and third stages of diseases because those are the ones that are leading into cancer, correct?
That's correct.
So you can have syphilis in the third stage, but I just wanted to for you to elaborate that once you're in certain stages, and when I say certain stages, if you contact it in the primary stage, you can go into the third stage. But what happens if you get with a partner who is in the third stage? And
That's a
you,
very good question.
will you get the first stage, or will you immediately get the third stage?
Well, you'll get the first stage, but you won't know you have the first stage
Okay.
if you're the female.
Yes.
Okay. So you're going to go on every day. Every now and then you may have some severe abdominal cramping.
Yeah.
You say, whoa, I must have you haven't changed with my menstrual cycles. I'm having a lot of pain. In actuality, that's your body responding to that organism.
I see.
And I also went on a website the other day, and I saw a website where there are a lot of women asking about a brown discharge. Their blood is not red anymore. It's like a watery brown color. What's going on here?
Oh, you're having endometrial changes.
I see.
And that's
say that again?
I'm sorry. I'm trying to keep it as...
No, it's okay. I just need to...
Endometriosis. Okay, endometriosis is the lining of the uterus, okay? And monthly, the endometrial or the uterine lining sheds on the female. But that's once a month. You should have a red discharge, and as it tapers, it will turn brown. But after that, you shouldn't have any discharges. And as you mentioned, Catherine, a lot of women are having this discharge. This discharge is indicative that the uterine lining is changing.
I see.
You should go in for a pap smear, okay? Pap smear can detect cervical and uterine changes.
Will the Board of Health do that test as well?
Definitely, free of charge.
I see.
We do total physical body workup.
Where's the location for that?
Okay, depending on where you're located,
But you can look in the yellow pages or...
well, just call 311. 311 will refer you to any place you need to know as far as the Board of Health.
What area?
Yeah.
In your area where you need to go.
And a lot of people have a tendency to be shy or ashamed of going in because, I've got this horrible odor or I've got this horrible discharge, but I'm embarrassed. What if I see someone I know? they're very confidential when they're dealing with your care.
Well, if you
And
see
you can even
somebody-
go in anonymously. We don't question you.
Yeah.
You can come in and say you're Jane Doe. We
But
treat
if you see somebody you know, then they're there too. So I mean, you shouldn't be worried about that.
Well, that's unfortunate, but that's
Yeah.
possible.
But let me just ask you a question here. Also, it is my understanding that when a person has multiple partners, be it male or female, what's happening here is they're actually changing the content of their body fluid.
Body flora.
So what's happening here is their body fluid, which was supposed to be something good, is now changed to a contaminated agent or poisonous agent.
That is so true.
It's transmitted through sex.
Through
or
sex,
other-
right? Through body fluids.
Through
All body
kissing.
fluids.
Kissing also, yeah, because you have oral sex. And a lot of people say, well, I'm safe if I just do oral sex. Well, that's not necessarily true because you have herpes, okay?
Yeah.
Herpes can be affected in the mouth, the anal area, and also the vaginal area.
And this causes cancer?
Oh, definitely.
And herpes.
Herpes.
Obviously has several stages as well.
Herpes actually does not have stages, and there's no cure for herpes.
Is that right?
That's correct.
But it does cause
But you can't
cancer?
keep it dormant.
So if you have herpes, there's no cure, but you
There's no
can
cure.
go
You
to
can-
sustain the disease.
Exactly. They have medication where they can to keep it from, coming out and
So
affecting.
in other words, you just have herpes until you die. Is it
That's
something
correct.
that will kill you?
It can kill you
Okay, and
because it can convert to cancer.
okay, so from having herpes, you can't cure it, but having it, it can turn into cancer that obviously it can kill you.
That's correct.
Now, let's touch on another subject here. What have you been seeing as far as the prostate cancer? I understand that the HPV virus, which is the human papillomavirus virus, which causes warts, they're conducting studies, especially over in Germany, and they're saying that because these warts grow internally in the prostate, that they're blocking the flow of semen and urine, on a man because these warts can, grow inside of you.
That's correct.
Well, I have a question. If what you say is true, I mean, we may go in at the stage of cancer. Should they be treating for herpes? But if there's no cure for herpes, then they'll just be treating for the cancer, or
No.
do they treat for the herpes?
No.
I mean, what do you do?
The treatment for herpes is to keep it dormant, okay? But if now you had mentioned earlier, Catherine, about the diet.
Yes.
Now, if a person changes their diet and keep a healthy immune system, stress brings the herpes virus out, or HPV virus out of your body. Stress.
Does in fact stress bring out a lot of the viruses in our body?
That's true. That's true.
Go on.
Stress meaning how the body's ability to fight other things. But when you're dealing with prostate cancer, a lot of times, a lot of men have a problem with the examination that it takes for detect prostate cancer. That's through the rectum on the male.
So they have to do what?
I have to do a rectal exam on the male to dictate whether or not the prostate is inflamed or is enlarged. If there's a slight enlargement of the prostate, most doctors will do a blood test called the PSA.
How often should a man have this test?
As often as a woman has a vaginal
And
test.
how often is that?
That's yearly,
Once a year.
once a year.
Okay, I need to ask a quick question. I know that there have been men who have been diagnosed with prostatitis, and I'm understanding that that is coming from chlamydia or it could be from gonorrhea.
That's
But
correct.
what doctors have been telling them is that this prostatitis will lead into cancer, so they're telling them they need to have these organs removed. And I think that we as a nation, whenever we're told about surgery as far as our reproductive organs, we need to stop, think, and be able to go in and, get someone who is really going to truly do what we need. But we're going to run out of time here. We're going to have you back, Yvette. Thank you so much for coming.
Before you go, Yvette, I want to ask a question. We got 4 minutes. We're going to close this out, wrap it up. I appreciate you being here. Thank you very much. So we can go to, give the name of the place that we can go to again, and the phone number where we can get assistance if you need it.
Sure. City of Chicago, Department of Public Health. You can dial 311 for the nearest Board of Health clinic to you. One of the numbers you can call is 1-312-747-8900. The reason I give that number is because that's one of the clinics that deals with the largest number of STD visits daily. So if you call that number, they can direct you to one that's closest
And
to
of
you.
course, the service is free.
Oh, service is free.
And again, I want to say that we as a black community, we need to start looking into what we're doing as far as this sexual revolution, because this is our reproductive organs.
Definitely, I agree.
And it does affect our children. We want to thank you again for watching The Two Talents. I'm Jay Johnson.
And I'm Sister Catherine, and thank you again, Yvette.
Thank you.
And all you're getting, get wisdom, knowledge, and of course, understanding. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
तू ही गुजरे